Good Wednesday afternoon, YouTube. How's your week going? I can't hear it, but feel free to tell me right now. Good, great, love it. Anyway, today's video is going to be about a topic that is kind of covered in like different angles that I've already seen. But what I want to talk about is my thoughts kind of on an experience that I just had. So if you're following me on Instagram, which you should be because my Instagram is great, sometimes I get some fun stories in there now. But anyway, if you've been following my Instagram, you noticed that I have been back to Canada recently. So I just came back like, I don't know, less than a week. No, I came back a week ago. And I've seen a lot of videos that have talked about reverse culture shock, where people go back to their home country or the country they're most familiar with, and suddenly everything kind of feels weird and new again. And I have to say that my experience has been more like reverse culture shock. So now that I've been back in Japan for a week, things have kind of felt weird and strange and new all over again that like a month ago wouldn't really have fazed me, I don't think. So I kind of want to explore that a little bit with you. So sit down, get comfy, get some popcorn, whatever you want to do, and let's have a little chit chat video. So before I get to the actual like reverse culture shock, I do want to talk about how being back in Canada was like a restorative experience for me. It was my first time going back, so I hadn't been back for a year, and I have lived abroad before. Like I've lived in a few different countries, but Japan is definitely the most different from Canada that I've ever lived in. Culturally, yeah, everything is just very different compared to like living in the US or living in Australia. So I think this is kind of why I'm feeling this now with this country versus some other places that I've lived. So anyway, when I first went back to Canada, I was surprised by how easy it felt, because I have watched videos about reverse culture shock. So I was kind of anticipating things would be feeling weird. Before I went to Canada, I debated recording some videos of me like saying what I thought was gonna be weird, and really like, no, there was a couple like small blips, like I paid for something at the register, not at the table, because that was my kind of natural instinct now, eating out in Japan. And there was one other thing that like I can barely even remember now. I think it was just like, oh, it was just like a walking on the right side versus the left side of the sidewalk. But like apart from those two like really small things, it felt pretty normal to be back in Canada. Maybe that speaks to how Canadian I am, or maybe that speaks to how worldly I am, that anything feels normal, but no. Maybe that's like for a personal self-reflection on why that felt so easy and comfortable. But anyway, coming back to Japan, a few things really stuck out at me again. So first of all, it was the like ethnic homogeneity, like coming back here and suddenly being the minority again. I was in Tokyo for a couple days, which you probably have just seen in a video, and I think that was a really nice buffer, because my first couple days I was back in Osaka, and I was really like, you know, only white guy in town again, and really felt like the eyes on me again, versus being in Tokyo, especially I was in Shinjuku, which is like a pretty international, pretty touristy place. I felt like I could blend in a little bit more there. But anyway, beyond just being the only white guy in town, whatever, the thing that really struck out to me was the lack of small talk interactions that I would have. Because when I was back in Canada, I found myself naturally just falling back into those small talk conversations, like while you're waiting for your credit card payment to go through the terminal when you're at a restaurant, like making a little chit chat, or like, I don't know, like people on the train or on the bus that circumstance makes you talk about something. And I don't really get that in Japan, so that was something that I was aware of again. The next was, I really have been reminded that I need to work to make myself understood. Because like I just said, you know, making small talk, it's easy to just talk and just share ideas and do whatever. But even like simple basic communication tasks here, I have to think about them again still. And my Japanese is way higher than when I started, and I'm much more comfortable having some basic conversations, but I still really need to think about how I need to phrase something to get an idea across, like asking for directions or asking what time a store is open or closed. I still need to think about like, oh, like what kind of politeness level of language should I be using, and like what kind of tense is like grammatically correct right now. So that's been a bit of like a like a readjustment of like, right, I can't just blah, blah, blah. Or I can, but that's how you get weird looks. Anyway, the last one was cash. Using and carrying cash. So I went out for just like a little drinks and dinner with some other Jets recently, and fortunately I had a bunch of cash in my wallet, but I didn't even think before I was leaving the house to check if I have cash, to check if we're splitting bills, because Japan is a cash country, and I had forgotten about that, because in Canada I think I used cash 2 times in a week and a half. And even those, like, I didn't necessarily have to, I had the cash and I wanted to get it out of my wallet before I left the country again. So using cash again, that was like a, right, I need to think about this again. So as you can see, these aren't like the most awful, most like oppressive things in the world. I don't feel like I'm really struggling again. Like, I have felt pretty confident and normal coming back to Japan, especially because this time around my Japanese level is so much higher than a year ago. But it's just the little things that I'm aware of again, and I don't know how that's gonna look in a month and a half. So going back to Canada was really like a restorative experience. My mental health has been pretty good in like the month or 2 leading up to my trip back to Canada, but I could tell there were some things that were getting on my nerves, and there were some things that were bugging me, or there were things that I was thinking about more than I really needed to, and that was even productive and really helpful to be dwelling on. And I feel like I definitely took out that mental garbage when I went to Canada. And so that's why I'm kind of wondering, like, these things that I'm noticing, are they like the beginnings of my mental garbage bags like piling up again? Or is this just a little bit of like a jarring readjustment and I'll be fine? So I don't know. I'm at work again. Today was my first like full day back in the office, and it was really good. I got to chat with some of my teachers. Like, as much as I said that people don't make small talk, obviously in my workplace, I am working with people who I know and have known for the past year, so I did get to have those small talk conversations, and I was reminded of the people who I do have good relationships with in my school, because it's not everyone. Not that I have bad relationships, but like, tangent. If you didn't notice, I'm a really talkative, really chatty guy, and I like making like chit-chatty relationships with people, but in my workplace here, for the first time, I really don't have like kind of chit-chatty relationships with most of my coworkers. Like, I am a really gregarious, sociable person, and so I don't have that the same way at this school with everyone. I still have those relationships for sure, but it's with like a much smaller portion of my coworkers, which you can chalk that up to language barrier, cultural barrier, whatever. But the point I'm trying to make is I'm back in my groove. Getting back in my groove. I'm still not, it's summer break, so students aren't back yet, so I'm not fully back in like my daily routine. I'm doing more special kind of project work, but all of this is a very long roundabout way of saying I'm being mindful of this for when it does get maybe a bit colder again in a few months, or maybe I do get a bit busier when work really starts to pick up when the students are back. I'm being mindful if all these little things that I'm noticing now are going to be bigger issues. Like, are these going to be reasons that I like sit in my apartment alone on a Friday night and like don't even want to go get like conveyor belt sushi because I'm too like grumpy? Or if this is like my little like readjustment and I'm gonna move past this in a month. So anyway, thank you for listening to my diary. That's basically what this has turned out to be. But no, I do hope that you took something away from this. Like, basically, if I'm gonna give any kind of takeaways from this, I would say reverse culture shock is a thing, but reverse culture shock is a thing as well. So if you're living abroad and you are planning to go home, or if you are thinking of moving abroad, yeah, this is something that kind of caught me off guard, was the coming back to the new place. Obviously, talking about these things helps. YouTube might become my therapy, but also friends and like professional help are probably also excellent options. I feel like this video is derailed a little bit. Maybe it hasn't, maybe I want to go through in the editing process, it'll look cohesive again, but for right now, I think maybe I'll cut this off here and just say, peace, love, and happiness. Thanks for watching to the end of this video. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll catch you next time.